What's up?
Aren't you doing it for the likes?
Nah, I ain't doing it for the likes.
Oh, okay. Hold up. So you doing it for the pussy?
Nah, I mean, yeah, no, I ain't doing it for that.
Okay, then. What are you doing it for?
Man, I do it for the culture.
The culture.
Everybody, a lot of people like, yo, I'm operating from a point of view of, and this is not for a while. This just didn't happen. I'm operating from the point of view of I don't want anything from you.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want anything from you, Nick.
How long have you been in LA?
I got 4 years in, man.
4 years already?
Wow, okay.
So those first years were rough. I
Trying
think
to
you're
transition
in
and
3.
adjusting. I'm in, no,
2.
a year and a half.
Year and a half. And you're still having that rough moment.
Well, this year my focus is like getting stable, so like getting my own shit.
And that's what, that
like
third year is that perfect year, that third year.
That's where I'm at right now.
That's where you're at.
So
But remember, when you came to town,
I was working at the Improv, remember?
Yeah, working at the Improv,
Yes.
and you were. I think your place got broken into and everything.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I was
yeah,
on
it
some
was bad.
big bro shit.
Yeah.
With you, where I wanted to be like, I used to tell you, like,
I was in
call me.
Inglewood.
Yeah.
Dude, that shit was bad. It was
And I
all
was
bad.
with her. I was like, yo, call me, but I know that you understand. Amarie's very attractive, so I know she's constantly getting
People trying to like
get at her.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was just like, I just say it a couple of times. I'm not going to say it more than that. Like,
Right.
yo, if you're in a bind, because I've been here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It gets
Y'all know
rough.
each other in Miami?
It gets
Huh?
really rough.
Y'all know each other in Miami?
Yeah, and passing
Passing.
by, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, I had dudes over here that looked out for me when I first got here.
For
So
sure.
I didn't even have to kind of like, what neighborhood do I move into and everything?
Yeah.
My homie Forrest Shaw was already established in that Los Feliz area.
He's also from Florida
He's a
as
Florida
well.
comic,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
The
saying?
homegrown look out for each other.
So then I slept on his couch
Mm-hmm.
while my place was available because I rented a place real close by.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks to him being in that neighborhood, when I came to do my recon, I was, oh, okay, I'm just going to move here. You know what I'm saying? What are we doing? We're
Clear
playing.
one. We recording. I'm just trying to
we're
get
recording?
just get my water. Yeah, man, I wanted to turn this shit on.
Okay, turn
the
up.
blank one. There we go. Yeah. This is another episode of For the Culture podcast. As you see,
For the culture.
For the culture, we getting to know each other, man. This is your host, Nick Alexander. Here to my right is my co-host, Amarie Lee.
What's going on, guys?
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Doing great?
Very good, yes.
She got the Mexican Coca-Cola glass.
I was
That's that
telling
real
Nick,
sugar.
hey,
That's
but
that real sugar.
low
That's the
key
one
in
with the Coke in
Miami,
it.
they don't
Yeah.
say Mexican Coke in Miami. They just
No,
say
no.
Coke in a
Mexicans
bottle.
out here, they just feeling, they
say
stunting
Coke in
right
a
here,
bottle.
'cause
No,
they
and
in LA.
because it's labeled Mexican Coke. If you start looking at the details, made in Mexico, bottled in Mexico.
The
It
bottles,
says that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I guess,
that's why
but
it's called Mexican.
She don't want to give him no credit though.
Yeah, she don't. She's.
I mean,
She's not trying to give Mexicans credit, but it's okay.
Mexicans run this shit out here. What do I mean?
Yeah, our guest for the day, man,
So
is
what does it matter?
super funny comic, also from Miami or just Florida or Miami.
No, Miami, Florida.
Miami.
Yeah.
Orlando, Leyba. Y'all make some noise. Listen
Yes.
to this.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank you,
claps.
Thank you.
We have another guest. She'll be here joining us shortly. My homegirl Rae Sunni from New York. So whenever she gets here,
Rae
we're
Sunni.
gonna call her out and make her feel bad for being late. But so we were talking about like when one moves out here, trying to help somebody find their footing, and it kind of worked in the same way for me because I was visiting LA before I moved.
Yeah.
And a lot of my comic friends rooted from New York looked out for me for a sense. Even if they didn't know me, they're like, oh, he from New York? All right, cool. I'll mess with him. Like, so I had my guest last week, Shang. Shang is one of my guys, especially.
I was with Shang
out here.
at Laugh Factory.
Right, yeah. So
I was with him Thursday.
and the same thing. Well, like I only had met him one time in New York when he was doing one of his runs and just ripping and running. And then I had a couch situation fall out on me last minute when I was coming out to LA for the first time. Yeah. And then a comic friend of ours, a mutual, called Shang and explained to him, and he was like, all right, well, I get it. He could stay with me, and then we've been cool ever since. And that was my
that dude right there, Shang, is like, there's this word doesn't, like, he's a man.
Right?
He's a man, and that's what it's all about. And he's one that helps people. I tried my best to live that life. You know what I'm saying? Like.
You seem like a man of principle. You got your shirt buttoned up to the top. I respect that, man.
I got you. Yeah, and we try to like help each other as much. That's the problem. People aren't helping each other sometimes, and I don't even worry about it, but I worry about it. And I feel bad. I feel bad. Like I don't know how much Amarie wants to let people know about her past, but like It ain't a bad past. It ain't like she did like porn or nothing
what do I
like
know?
that.
What I don't know?
Let him explain.
But like when she first came to LA, like I knew her in passing from in Miami and whatnot, and then she was working at the Improv, and I was like, hey, if you ever feel down and everything, because this is the stuff I went through. I remember my buddy, you know, I'm Dominican and Spanish, so some of us don't even like believe in depression.
Haiti.
Yeah, Haiti. So there you go, man. You know what I'm saying? So some of us don't even believe in depression. Like our culture is like depressed. What is that? And stuff like that. And I remember my buddy Forrest Shaw came to me one time because when I first got to LA, there was a time I wasn't even leaving my studio.
Wow, unless
I just left my house in Miami, Florida, front yard, backyard, my dogs and my wife to come over here and make something happen. And I'm not even leaving the studio apartment because I didn't want to lose my parking. Wow. You get me? But it was deeper than that. You get me?
That's real, man. Especially if it's right in front of the building.
Yeah.
That's why I don't have a car anymore because the whole parking.
Nah, that's not why you don't have a car.
So it was.
No, it really is. It really is. Like, but the parking was bad.
You understand? It was deeper than losing my parking space. It was. I was sad. I was missing my comfort zone. I was like on some. I remember Forrest Shaw came up to me and goes, "Yo, you depressed?" And then Dave Williamson, another comic from Florida that lives out here, he lives in El Segundo. He used to call me. He's like, "Yo, come to my house," because it was his wife, his kids. He's barbecuing and shit, and he's trying to recreate this Miami vibe at his house.
Yeah, like a homey, like a home.
And then that kind of became our hub for a while, where we would go to Dave Williamson, another great comic, and. So when you came around, right, I wanted that for you. I wanted to give that to you, that same, because by the time you there, I knew my way around. I knew some of the traps that were set up in this town. I wanted to warn you about certain mics. Hey, don't do this mic, don't do that, because that's just gonna crush your soul. That's not good for your spirit.
Yeah.
Waste of time.
You get me? What I'm saying? It's a waste of time, and it becomes like. I try to get like whoever's coming along.
Too many consistent waste of time mics will lead to
it gets you like doubting yourself, like, yo, what the fuck is going on right now?
And it's like your
any
energy,
aspiring comics out here, by the way, there's a system to this shit.
Yeah, and your energy was better spent staying at home or going to the 101 cafe, sitting in a booth, ordering a coffee, and trying to write a joke than to go to that open mic. You get me?
Yeah.
Oh, but I need to get it out. You really calculate your time, man. Is it really worth it? Did you get anything out of it? And this is all, I'm not better than anybody else. This is all, I just lived through it. And I was just like, oh, that felt horrible.
Yeah. And let me figure out how to maximize the way I need to go about doing stand-up while I live here. Because doing it in this town is different from other towns.
Yeah, and you came from Florida. You did high school in Florida, and then you went to New York.
Oh, yeah, I never liked Florida, so I moved back to New York as soon as I could.
Yeah, and you're originally from New York, correct? And you made it happen, and there's a different animal. The community's installed. You know how to move. You can look it all up.
But as a in high school and whatever like that, like I just didn't like my school. I went through a rough living situation with my mom, so it just wasn't a fun experience. Yeah. But I think as an adult, I'll always tell people, as an adult, you visit Miami, whatever like that, it's great. I think Florida is great for vacation. For me, I just can't live there. Looking forward to getting a tan. Like that's just, it's too slow for me. Like the way I am, especially doing comedy, entertainment.
Exactly.
It doesn't feed any of that. So you know, a lot of people.
You're carving your lane.
If I had stayed in South Florida, I probably would have went to some school. Just got hooked on fucking girls, working a regular job, and probably most of my time in strip clubs. That's probably what I would do because that's. So most niggas around our age do. It's just did you have a strip club of choice when you was before you settled down? Or maybe you still might.
In Miami?
Not
Tootsie's, Scarlett's?
No, I used to go to Stonewall, which was like just ghetto, like real ghetto.
You like real ghetto shit?
Yeah, like the girls
heroin needles on the floor?
I know people. It's not even
heroin needles.
It's not even jokes. It's like some of the girls had scars. Their C-section, you could see it. Yeah. It was like legit, but it wasn't about the nakedness. It was more about the environment. Like
they had good food.
Yeah. No, I never fuck with strip club food.
Strip club food is great, man.
I mean, the Tootsie's lemon pepper chicken wings. I think it's
Maria knows half
Tootsie's is like, I don't care how anybody tries to dress up. Like Tootsie's in Florida, highly recommended. If you're coming in as a tourist, you're gonna be safe.
You can watch the game, you eat. It's a great
environment. They have a full variety of visuals.
They have a nursery home where you can have your kids sleep.
Yeah. And there's an actual chef. There's temperature. They check the temperature on the food. You're not getting diseases and everything. And if you're a tourist, just Tootsie's and be safe. There's other strip clubs that you might go in and someone might make you lay down. Like give up everything you have. And that's where I used to be at.
It was the one on Overtown. Were you talking about the one on Overtown, like the A1 on Overtown? Well, what location was?
I went to
the strip
G5
club
also. G5
because I know the clubs in Overtown are like fucking Overtown. They were like
I think
crazy hood.
I think you're talking about like Liberty Cities and stuff like that.
Yeah, pork and beans.
Yeah. So
isn't it pork and beans or we say pork?
Yeah.
You changed it.
I said pork and beans.
You've been out of Miami too long.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to get your Miami stamp again.
It was like that. So it was like that. And Porky's, I used to go to Porky's too because it was like real close. I remember going in there with Jason Alvarez and a fight broke out with the strippers.
Hey,
I remember I heard about that. I heard about that.
And the strippers just started throwing bottles at each other. Like real.
How did that start? How did that thing start?
I don't even know, man. It was probably like strippers. Like
you seem to be always in the middle of a lot of fights. But nothing happens to you. They love your face and how you talk to them. But they won't hurt you, but they'll hurt that other bitch.
It was always like around me, and I remember me and Jason just looking at each other and looking at this fight going on, and it was like I felt like it was going in slow motions. And what hit me was that we recognized everybody that was in the fight. We're like, oh, she went to school with us. Oh, she went to school with us too. Mm-hmm. So it was like one of those weird vibes.
High school reunion.
High school reunion, Oh, here we go.
Here we go. She's looking for it.
Here we go.
And here's our other guest.
Awesome.
It's okay. What's up, Rae?
Hi, friends.
Hello.
Ray's in the building.
Ray's in the building. I ain't seen Rae in a minute. What's going on, girl?
Sorry, I imagine you guys are excited.
Yeah, I couldn't wait, but it's okay, No. See, the thing is, I know you, so I wasn't even mad. I was like, Rae was probably on the toilet when she hit me up. Good. Yeah.
Hi, friends.
Join us.
Hello.
Rae Sunni, this is
guys,
Orlando
Ray's here.
Leyba. He's a fellow comic out here. It's the co-host, Amarie.
Yes,
Hi, you look very familiar to me.
Doing intros, And this is engineer Paul.
Say my name again. Say it again. No, don't.
You go by, I thought it was Orlando.
Yeah, but my full name. I want to hear
Leyba.
I
said it right.
No,
You thought I said Leyba?
No.
I said Leyba.
Yeah, exactly. You're saying pussy lips. That's what you're calling me. You're calling me Orlando pussy.
Trying to set me up.
Leyba.
All right.
And he's like, we're neighbors. I'm from Haiti. I'm Dominican. Shut up. I've been letting you ride, but I wanted you to own it. Like
I was like, huh? I said Leyba, didn't I?
Hey, to your defense, that's mad smooth, yo.
Yeah,
Orlando
smooth,
Pussy Lips. I got you.
Yeah, that's your nickname. That's why you got. That's why.
No, that's not my nickname.
okay,
I don't need dudes trying to fuck my mouth. Relax, son. Relax, man. I'm not built that way. That's not the way the DNA is programmed. I'm sensitive, but not like that.
Yes, we have all the respect for your mother.
2018.
No, I know you got respect. It's a common mistake. Common mistake, man. I just want.
How do white people say? Do white people say it worse than I
did? They run around the same thing. So the thing I come up is dumb. I had to be like in the hood.
So one more time, clear for the masses. Orlando.
Leyba.
You
know what I'm saying? Boom. But the best way to remember it if you attach a story to it. So she's in Leyba.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You got to be like a little hood.
You got to slang.
She's in Leyba. Orlando. She's in Leyba.
I got one of those too.
You got
my name on stage is Rae Sunni.
Rae
but
Sunni.
my parents are Nigerian Muslims, so my name is actually Rafat Sunni.
Rafat Sunni?
Yes, that's
They're like Raphael?
The way Rafat, Rafat, Raphael. So
Rafit. Anybody give you Rafit in the hood?
I got Rafit. But the thing I have is you got She's in Leyba. I got Hot Pot Dasani. Like hot pot, you drinking Dasani water.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just so people can.
We have
the things we have to do.
Yeah,
What about you, Nick? Would you have anything?
My last name, because it's a I do get called Dick Alexander, but my last name is a French last name because my background's Haitian, so it's Anglade, right? In Creole, you would say Anglade, but when white people read it or whoever, they would say Anglade, Anglade, and that was every year in different class attendance, same shit, right? Yeah. Then when I started comedy, open mics, you put your name on paper and they're reading that shit out. Let's give it up for Nick Anglade, and I was like, I can't go through this shit again.
That's so funny.
So I use my middle name.
You guys know the comedian Indian guy's name's Hari Kondabolu.
Yeah, he's the one with the glasses?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he's very woke.
Right.
So, like, I was talking to him. I mentioned that my parents are Nigerian Muslim. And he was like, your name's Rae and your parents are Nigerian Muslim. I was like, no, actually, my name is Rafa, and people mispronounce it. He goes, no! Make the white man pronounce your name. That's power. I was like,
did you apply that or
no?
He's like, nigga, I'm trying to keep a job. Okay.
Exactly. I was on his levels yet.
So Rae, she just moved from New York.
Yes,
She's
I
out
did.
here. So you officially live here, right?
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay, we'll see. Stick around. So you're writing on a show.
Yes.
Why don't you tell the For the Culture fans what show you're writing on?
I'm writing on a show called The Good Place on NBC.
That's
Stars Ted Danson. You watch it?
That's a beautiful
Oh my God! Thank you.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild because
Excuse me. Oh, shit.
I'm just a half hood rat from Brooklyn.
Look, you're so much more than that. I used to watch Rae do stand up on stage, and she would like talk about being a hood rat, and I'm like, but she's so fucking smart.
I'm all right. I do all right for myself.
Nah, your Facebook status. This is why we got cool, because her Facebook statuses be so deep, and like she just be writing like she'll write like some of the most hood shit in a second, like how she mad J.R. Smith still fucking with thoughts and need a real woman in her life, and then talk about some woke essays, powerful shit, get engaged with everybody else. It's so crazy her switch up. So I always admire that, and I think she blends that in her comedy really well.
But fortunately, like I'm a private school scholarship kid, so I was really well educated, and then also I grew up in East New York, which is like the gutter.
Right. And you went to Ivy League school, right?
I went to Princeton.
I met a friend of yours from Princeton, Chizam.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she's out here. Yeah. She was like, Rae was like the fucking smartest girl.
That's very nice.
But she bigged you up heavy. Shout out to Chizam if you listen.
But yes, like, so I was very fortunate that like I had a very good education, but I have African parents. And it was really crazy because I went to school with people like Lena Dunham and this guy, Griffin Newman. And they're all these like artsy out there. Y'all know Lena Dunham. She be bugging all the time.
Yeah, she
does. I just look at Lena Dunham and I'm like, I would be that awful if I didn't have Nigerian broke parents to come home and drag me back into place. Like I walk into this school, 13 kids in a class, I'm loud, I call them by their first names, the teacher. We didn't get grades because the thing is like, everything you write is art, everything you do is important.
Oh, it's a bubble like kind of existence.
Yes. And so then I would go home and my mom's like, your important ass needs to wash dishes or
kind of centered you. It centered you in a sense.
Pick your sister up from school or whatever.
With that bubble shit too. So when I would go visit my folks in Haiti, like my parents in Haiti ain't rich, but they're like upper middle class. Like they had family businesses. They all like live well off to a certain extent. You know, their houses. They have maids, butlers, drivers, security guards, the gated houses and shit. And when I go there, you know, you can like,
but don't get like,
you can ask the maid, you can ask your maid to make you something or whatever. And like, I get that spoiling treatment for like 2 months, and then have to go back to New York when school starts, and then like just leave shit around. I eat something and leave it at the plate. My mom's like, hey, you ain't in Haiti no more, nigga. You better wash your own goddamn dishes. I ain't your fucking maid.
But let's not give him the wrong idea. Like that, you're talking about Haiti.
Yes.
With that, not in the States, because you have butlers and stuff, but you got to understand.
It's a different culture.
In our country, like in Dominican Republic,
Haiti, we can live like kings if your family.
With $4,000 a month, you live like a king. You have someone that washes your clothes. You got someone that can cook for you.
It's the equivalent to being a middle class American citizen.
Exactly.
It's very weird, though. It's very weird because it's kind of odd. Like all my family members think my parents are popping, right? Yeah. And so they go to Nigeria. Like nobody's coming back to America with everything they had in their suitcase. You know what I mean?
They take everything.
They take everything.
They take everything, always.
He could get it when he goes back. You know, it's really
that's dope. Though.
Because they don't have anything. When I would go to Cuba, I have like luggages of clothes and everything, and I'll come back with absolutely nothing.
You just gave it because you didn't care. You just give it away.
Well, because they don't have anything. It's a communist country. Like for them, it's like the world. It's like Christmas. So
my sister went to Cuba last year, and she was struck by. And I'm just asking because I was curious. I made this podcast really unfun. I apologize.
It's for the culture. So we just talking about real shit that's going on.
Oh, okay, cool.
We take it any way we want to.
My sister just went to Cuba last year, and she loved it. But the whole time, she was cognizant of the fact that she was getting treated a certain way because they could tell she was American.
Oh yeah, that happens to me too.
Oh,
they call me Yuma. They call you Yuma when they know you're from the States.
You sure
you're
that
American?
Just say you,
Yuma.
Get over here.
Yo, Yuma, come over here. No, they're very biased towards that because they're like, all right, well, she has money or she has something. Because even if you have like $10, when you go over there, you get treated like you're a fucking millionaire.
Yeah, she was
like you get a house on the beach for $100 for the whole weekend.
That's so she Airbnb'd at a really nice place, and then she told me that she had to sneak tip people because they weren't supposed to be taking that money.
Yeah,
and because it's a communist country,
right? Yeah. And then we're Nigerian Yoruba, and she just was like so in love with the fact that this was the closest, besides Brazil, to a place that embraced the Yoruba blackness over there.
Oh, and so
she was seeing
definitely.
All kinds of like beautiful sort of Afrobeats shows and shit like that, and it's like a bummer.
They embrace it. Are a little in Miami. They're very different.
No, the Miami are the literati and white upper class that got exiled, and that's a whole other complicated thing. But I just
go there.
But it's like a mixed culture too, because within my family, my grandma, rest in peace, she was Afro-Cuban, and my grandfather was Japanese Spaniard.
Oh wow!
And so in my family, I have white, black, Asian. Hispanic and the whole mix
of it.
Where'd you
grow up?
Jersey.
Jersey and Miami.
At Miami, and then I came to Miami when I was 13. But as far as like the culture before Castro went into regime, it was beautiful. It was amazing.
Right.
Like before he
what was it like
before Castro came in?
Pretty much the scene in Godfather 2 where
they had all the
but it was really like Cuba was like Vegas, like in the United States.
They were horrible to the black folk.
Well, they had a whole bunch of they had the slave trade. They had a whole bunch of stuff, but at the same time, people were still getting wealthy within those. Within those things, with the rum, with the tobacco.
Yeah, I just was listening to a podcast on the mafia, and Lucky Luciano, he's the one who sort of made organized crime a thing in America. And so he got a 50-year sentence on some bogus charges. I'm not defending the mafia, but he got a 50-year sentence on some bogus charges. But because he and his people controlled the docks during World War II, and the Navy needed control over water spaces, he finagled a 10-year sentence, and they sent him back they deported him to Italy. Wow. But your boy was still controlling shit because he had peoples out in Havana making all of the heroin moves.
Wow.
Yeah.
In like the East.
You got the biggest mobsters really coming out from Havana, Cuba, like a bunch of them. That's why I kind of went to Miami, and then the whole cocaine cowboys and all that mix happened.
Wow.
And stuff you saw in Narcos.
Wait, I have one more question. I'm sorry, I'm like,
that's where my knowledge comes in.
Well, the Narcos.
I don't watch Narcos because I hate reading TV. I hate subtitles. I watched the first
I feel like I get good in Spanish when I just watch subtitles, like because I get really invested in Narcos. Like I shut out the world for those 2 days. I gotta get through it.
Okay, are you a Love and Hip Hop fan?
No, I'm not.
I am.
Oh, okay.
He is.
Okay,
I'm not.
Can I help?
You might, but you're Haitian, and I know that there's some colorism issues over there too.
For sure.
There was a shorty on Love and Hip Hop Miami called Amarie Lee.
Oh yeah,
I know her,
and she had a whole storyline about colorism within the Latina community or Latino community, and she is Afro-Latina. And it was a wild thing to experience because I knew that there are black Latinos, they all in the Bronx. I don't understand why everybody was confused, but the world was acting like she was bugging.
Yeah,
for
you talking about the Breakfast Club interview? Yeah, because Charlamagne, I felt like he was like, him and Envy were kind of like dogs, like, it's not just black people who go through the colorism too. Like it's in the Latin community too.
But they didn't seem to understand that there are black people from different countries.
A lot of people don't.
Weird.
A lot of people don't because it's kind of like you have like New York, where you have the Puerto Ricans, the Dominicans.
All of our Latinos in New York are Caribbean.
And then you have Miami.
The problem is that the Latino, everybody knows the Latino as just the general is Mexican. So they're used to the Mexican what a Latino looks like to them is a Mexican. So
on the West
they
Coast,
don't understand like being Dominican and stuff. And we have our issues too. Like most Dominicans of color think that they're white in a certain sense because
I know black by me.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a weird thing because it was the brain fuckery that was done to us.
Course.
That was done to the Dominican, like, you know, even during the slave trades, like the slaves were allowed to ride on horses and stuff. So they always thought
they were lighter?
No, period.
Oh, wow. That's
like
crazy.
the formats in it, like when the state, from the state, those slave owners would come to the Caribbean because of the sugar and stuff, and they would freak out when they would see black people like riding horses. Like, yo, how do you let your slaves?
Oh wow,
like a Django.
Yeah, it was kind of like this whole, because their way of being slave owners was different. It's not that they were better; they were still being slaves.
Right,
you know,
right.
With Haiti, it was different. You know, Haiti, it was like they were more of a powerful nation. You know, people don't, they slip on Haiti. Like Haiti's the real
it's
Wakanda.
Poppin',
They're the ones that rebelled and started killing the slave owners.
What happened was, unfortunately, we had to burn a lot of our natural resources to get that freedom, and then they taxed us.
They
so
taxed
it's like
us.
they have a 400-year start on being independent, embargoes, and lots of corrupted, crooked shit that's been taking place.
It wasn't like France even gave it up. They were like, no, they're buying it from us.
Right.
And then they just sat there and they were like, no, because they could. Everybody else band together and then like, no, we can't let this happen to this.
What's crazy is, you know, it sucks how much misinformation that you get as a child. Because I grew up in Brooklyn and everybody's everything other than American in Brooklyn. And as if you black anyway, very few black Americans, but everybody's West Indian in Brooklyn, at least at the time they were. And everybody would claim Jamaican really hard. Everybody would claim Trinity pretty hard. And then nobody who was Haitian wanted to admit they was Haitian.
Yeah, because they used to get picked on in TV.
In New York?
Yeah. You used to be made fun of for being African or Haitian.
They call you the booty scratcher.
Yes.
Till this day,
dirty
and it
Haitian.
goes
Not
way
anymore,
back.
though.
Because, thank
we
God,
woke
White
in a way.
Yeah,
Wyclef was the one
He
that
finally
said that.
admitted it after 3 years, letting everybody think he was Jamaican from Jersey.
Exactly.
But
like
that's crazy.
Lauryn Hill talked about it. How the first time she met Wyclef of Prague, she thought, because they're cousins, they were like, she thought, oh, look at these two Jamaican dudes, and they were like, and they kept writing.
I think the only bullshit I heard from Haitians that was said about Haitians in Miami was like that they eat cats.
That's weird.
And voodoo.
But that's the thing. That's the problem. That's what sucks, because like basically what helped the misinformation is that this black country revolted and threw over their colonizers. Great. The white countries around them did not want their black slaves to get any ideas. So now we embargo, we make them poor, we don't trade with them, their country goes to shit, and we tell these black people it's because they practice their African religion. They made a deal with Satan,
the devil,
all kinds of stuff. And so it's just really fucked up, because I'm an adult. I was an adult thinking about the fact that when I was in 6th grade, they let us choose either Spanish or French. And I can admit it, I was like, I don't want anybody to think I'm Haitian, so I'm going to study Spanish. And that's how fucked up it was to learn.
In a way, that's like a repercussion of a Willie Lynch syndrome kind of thing.
Exactly. It's basically like, they told me that I'm supposed to hate this other black country. And it turns out that we just mad that they didn't let them enslave them for as long as the rest of everybody else did. And can you imagine having small children grow up next door to their neighbors and think voodoo, their natural religion, is wrong and evil and terrible because a white colonizer who gave them the religion told them that? That sucks.
Because they got their freedom from you and you was salty. And you don't want your other peoples to,
And so now you have infrastructure problems in this country that's otherwise rich in terms of resources that are natural. And you have all these problems, and it starts because we got mad. They had the audacity to not want to be slaves anymore. And I just am so regretful of that. But I am very glad that these days we're kind of functioning in a world where people like rep their Haiti flag. Nigerians are popping again.
It's a new wave.
Happening. That's the main thing. A lot of people concentrate on all the bad stuff that's going on in the world. I choose to look at it as in, man, these amazing changes that are going on.
A lot of progression.
Because I'm just that right age.
In the positive scope.
Yeah, I'm just that right age where I got to witness some of the stuff, the very tail end of some of the stuff that was going on in all of our countries and in this country, and now seeing the change that the younger generation is making. My goddaughter, my nieces and nephews, you know, like from everything to feeling comfortable with sexuality to full-blown kids that are like 15 years old and they're like, yo, I'm gay. And it's like, and it's a beautiful thing. He gets accepted. He goes to school. He gets his vibe.
There's no thinking there's something wrong with you.
And sometimes, I'm not saying it happens everywhere, but even that gay kid now is friends with the captain of the football team. And he's like, and it's like they're just vibing, like in the sense of, no, this isn't sexual. That's just my friend. Like,
and you're no less of a person or whatever because of the dynamic of the relationship.
We're heading in the right direction.
How were you? I guess when you were younger, like, what was it? How did your mentality like have a big shift, or you've always kind of been this open-minded?
I had definitely big shifts because I don't. My family's educated, but not educated. They're more like hustlers and survivors. They're country folk like in Spanish, it's from El Campo. They're from deep inside DR.
Okay.
So it's kind of, but they manage somewhere in New York. They own bodegas. They own laundromats.
Dope.
It's a hustle, but that's also like in its own, you know, there's the Bodega Association, and you can't go, you know,
Tell us about this Bodega Association.
Yeah,
talk about it because I'm writing about it right now. So it's like, but it's this whole world that through my uncle I've been, you know, my uncle just happens to be like one of a president of a bodega association. So
Bodegas
you can't just go open a bodega.
Is it different neighbor? Is it for different
boroughs?
Different boroughs?
He's like that. So
I'm from Queens, so obviously Queens is where.
I hope they put bodegas back on the map though, because bodegas.
Can we get bodegas out here? You guys need to really.
No, that's more like a New York thing.
It's never gonna be. Come on, but talk to your president, people. We need to get some bodegas.
We need some good bodegas.
Fuck 7-Eleven, man. I'm tired. They shitty ass food, and it's not good.
It's the whole nother world behind it that you got to go get permission from. It's not even.
We need you to be successful.
Yeah, there you go.
That's wild to me.
In your mission.
I only moved out here in January, and the fact that I can't go around the corner to a store, even though he's behind the bulletproof glass, he opens that little slide, give me a turkey sandwich. I can't even do that.
And it's a hard transition.
It's like
what a beautiful culture that is. That people are missing out on.
New York.
I really miss it.
And to be able to get anything, like, yo, papi, I need a plumber. Oh, I got a card right here. Toma.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Or even just like, yo, I'm dead broke, but I really need this. I got you tomorrow. You know I always come in here. Stuff like that. There's not a sense of community the same way in LA.
Credit. Like, people don't even know there's certain people that if you come, you have a credit line, and at the end of the week, you just come and pay with them. You just come, hey, I grab some tater chips and we go. But I'm glad I kind of touched on writing for a little bit.
Yes, because that's what I wanted to definitely kind of bring y'all in.
Because I'm ecstatic. I want to hear all about what Rae has to say about being in this world.
Name the show. What's the show again?
The Good Place.
The Good Place with Ted Danson on NBC.
Yeah.
So this is season 1 that's going on right now?
No, it's season 3.
So you got added for season 3.
Yeah.
So tell us, as are you the token black woman in the room?
I wouldn't call myself a token, but I am a black woman in the room. Yeah.
So how is that for you? How has that experience been for you?
Well, so
working on a network scripted show.
It's really crazy because I came from.
And let's take back the token part. I'm gonna take that.
Yeah.
Because you are a talented writer. So are you a talented? I get it.
I get what you meant by the question.
I get it.
Yeah.
So
we outnumbered out here.
Yeah.
We're outnumbered everywhere, and it's very bizarre because. That's been part of my transition to LA. I've had such a hard time because I moved to neighborhoods that my representation, white people, told me looked the most like New York. But when I got to Silver Lake, I was like, oh, they mean Williamsburg.
Echo Park is the Williamsburg of LA.
Silver Lake is like New York. Get the fuck out of here.
Gentrifiers.
So then,
about gentrifiers.
I live in Echo Park right now, but I'm about to move to Los Feliz. And
I like Los Feliz.
Okay,
slightly
good.
better.
There's a really nice vintage theater there that I go to like almost every week. It's called Los Feliz. movie theater.
Okay.
You gotta check it out.
I'm glad to hear that.
And it's
I'll
like
I'll
$6.
be honest, and I'll let you get in there. Do not sleep on Glendale. I live in Glendale, but I lived in Los Feliz. But for the price and not to have parking and not to see normal people, because I feel like Los Feliz is very artistic, very creative. Oh, and you go to a coffee shop. Yo, I live in Glendale, beautiful place. My mechanic is like my next door neighbor's a mechanic, just a regular dude. He works at a mechanic shop. He has his family. There's kids. There's people with strollers. Well, it's like real life.
Right.
So, and the price isn't that much. $1,700 a month.
Not robot hipsters.
The issue is for me. The problem is that I don't know how to drive at all. Brooklyn kid, took the train, took the bus. I don't know how to drive.
You gonna take
so
lessons?
I have to. I'm gonna learn once I sign my lease.
I'm about that Lyft life. I don't know about y'all, but I live the Lyft life.
Yeah, because I don't want to learn how to drive, get a California state ID, and not live here.
Yeah.
So,
tidbit, don't switch your California state ID. Just go say you're back and forth.
Yeah, but I don't even have a permit, a learner's permit in New York.
Then you gotta do that. Yeah.
So I have to like make a big commitment if I learn how to drive.
Yeah.
But so one of the hardest things about living in like Silver Lake, Echo Park, whatever, I have not seen Black people in the wild. I'm like, where are my people? Like, I can't find anybody. Then I started getting my hair done in Wilshire, but I had to go pick up my weave in like Baldwin Hills and shit.
Yeah.
And I had an amazing Saturday where I like saw Black women walking around. There was Senegalese people in my hair salon. I like went to another place to pick up hair, whatever. But then I come back and it's a $50 cab ride, and it's like I have to spend $50 to be around people I give a shit about.
Move to Leimert Park, then you'll be fine.
Again, I don't drive, so the distance to work matters.
That's true.
And like I can't, chance it where if I call an Uber at 9:10, it's busy hours. He doesn't come to 9:20. I'm late for work now.
You can't be late.
So that's why Echo Park and Silver Lake, it's very quick or whatever. Yeah. But and as far as like being the Black woman in the room, it's really crazy because I lucked into a job with the best writing staff in the world, and not just in terms of talent, in terms of progressive views and like valuing women and people of color. And still, sometimes I'm uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's crazy because I went to predominantly white schools, then I went to a predominantly white college, but ever since leaving school, I have made my world on purpose, primarily Black people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was a stripper, and then I was an admin assistant. So I had jobs I didn't give a shit about. So I didn't have to care what it's like or have to do the things Black people in corporate or workspaces have to do to get by, get along, not get fired, not to cause trouble.
But why do you feel uncomfortable? You said you feel uncomfortable while you're in the meeting room with them?
I'm uncomfortable because I'm not in control. In control in the sense that this conversation we're about to have ain't gonna be a Black one. And it's not their fault. Yeah. Right. But I'm in a room where everybody's talking about, I don't know, Thin Lizzy and, rock groups I've never even fucking heard of. Yeah. And I'm sitting there like, okay, but nobody gonna talk about the Cardi B album.
Right. But invasion of privacy.
But do you get to put your 2 cents? How does that process go?
What's been great for me is that when I fight for something, they listen. Yeah. But I also still have to fight for it because I'm a Black person. Yeah. And that's not going to change no matter how free or liberal your workspace is. If it's predominantly Black, it's predominantly white, something Black hasn't occurred to them, and you have to point something out. Yeah. And that's not to...
Do you feel like a teacher sometimes in the room?
Not a teacher, no, because I feel like it's a free exchange of ideas with smart people who value what I think and value what I have to say. Okay. But like, it's just so funny because this will always be true. As like, there are things white people laugh at that Black folk don't laugh at, and vice versa. Yeah. And so I have to put on a different hat when I'm pitching a joke. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, what's silly and absurd enough that this white group of people, and this is not just my current job, this is also when I was at the President Show, that this white group of people will find the humor in. Right, I always had a funny idea, and then I spent maybe 2 or 3 minutes trying to translate that idea into white vernacular, which is like a really weird thing. And
because those writers usually come from like Ivy League schools and they have different ways of thinking.
A lot of kids wear,
or it's like just it sounds to me. It sounds to me like you're walking. Yeah, you're
code switching. Yes.
Yeah, you're coming into the room and that's why you're in the room, because it's your flavor, and they have a different type of flavor, and you got to get used to their flavor, and they got to get used to that.
Which I think is great. It's like you're infiltrating the system. Like I feel,
that feels
like
good.
Yeah, doesn't it feel like you're kind of like a spy? Like, all right, I'm getting all their information. That way, when I'm doing my own shit, I can know what they're thinking. That's how I see it. I'm like putting the data, and then you come up with your own show.
I've been so lucky though. The Good Place and the President Show are the worst spots to choose to try to infiltrate, because they're like,
so that was on Comedy
so
Central.
Fucking crazy.
It was so Anthony Atamanuik was the host, and he wore a fat suit and did the perfect impression of Donald Trump, as if Donald Trump was hosting a late night talk show from the Oval Office.
Got you.
And it was, those people are genius and brilliant, and the same here. They're genius and brilliant. And the reason why it's the worst place to infiltrate is because they'll be like, "You're right." There's nothing like, I'm not in a room with like Fox News people, you know, trying to
going against
study
Tommy
the enemy.
or Ann Coulter.
No, it's people who are like, I'm glad you pointed that out, thank you. Or people being like, how do you feel about this thing we're about to do? And to be honest, especially now that this is a narrative show, I didn't work on a narrative show before. I worked on a late night show. So this is my first time building story. And
so what's that? Describe that for those that don't know what that is.
So narrative is a TV show that's episodic, and it happens weekly, and it's based around the same main characters and a story that sort of has an arc over the course of a season. Whereas a late night show usually, and the President Show, was topical. Things change from week to week or day to day depending on how frequently that show airs. And so the narrative show was terrifying to me because I can tell stories. I can write stories. I've never told story in dialogue. Ooh. So here's this person who thinks that girl right there is funny and she has good ideas. I like her stand-up. Bring her into our room. I'm stealing. I'm getting paid to learn, and it's mind blowing.
I think that's great.
Like, it's crazy.
I saw you got the first gig, the Comedy Central thing. I'm glad somebody took a notice of Ray's pen game, and now you moving on to this one.
It's really. I'm so lucky.
And I've had, I have friends who are writing on shows, and I'm not gonna name the shows and everything, and because they're my friend, and I've seen the selection. Of how they select the writers that are going to be on the show. And that's why I took a pause and we took a beat on the whole token, because even though
did they get that diversity hire email?
Because I've never wanted to be a writer on the show.
Right.
But I've seen their selective process, and even though they are bringing in and we're getting that shot to be in that room, it's still, you have to have talent for sure. You don't go in there. Anybody in that room, Ray, you're in that room, it's because you can write. It ain't like it ain't.
I had a situation because a comic I'm very cool with, and I got to really stop saying that because you brought it up again. I'm like, oh shit, I did it again. So he's a hilarious comedian, Marshall Brandon in New York, and he got a writing gig on True TV. And in my congrats or whatever on the IG, I jokingly was like, yeah, good, get that work in the token room or whatever like that. And he was like, nah, man, I got that because my pen game is whatever official. And I thought about it. I was like, you know what? You're right. And I texted him. I was like, you know what? That's my bad. I apologize. It wouldn't come at you like that. It's just that we kind of like have this thing where we know it's like only one or two of us might be in there. And not because you're getting in there because they're trying to fill a quota, but it's like...
Well, sometimes they are trying to fill a quota.
That's honest.
But for the community of comics that I know, y'all are writing because y'all are good and funny and have your own thing.
The issue with what you said isn't that you said that. The issue is that there's a pervading mindset.
Right. Yeah.
And it was really crazy because when I was negotiating this deal, my managers kept it away from me that there's a diversity hiring program. And sometimes especially with network television, you have the budget from the studio, and then you have the network. The network provides funding for an additional salary for a person of color or a woman or something like that.
Yeah.
And everybody didn't mention that part to me. Everybody in my on my team didn't. I sound like an asshole. I mean, team.
You have a team now, right? God damn. You done changed, Hollywood ass nigga.
Oh my! And also another thing that's very hard about being the only black woman in the writing room. I'd be like, yo, Rafa, you can't use N-words this freely. But so I've had to pull it back.
Down, 8 niggas a day, then 6 niggas, and 3 niggas.
Because it's like not only, I mean, one, I should be better about using it in general, but two, when you say nigga around white people, the mood changes. They don't want it to be that
They really don't want to feel that uncomfortable.
They want to understand.
They want to understand.
They want to say it.
And the main thing,
they want to know. People don't want to say
yes,
it.
They do. Yes, they do.
What changes
when the songs are on in the club, they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that
like
about
a forbidden
people.
fruit.
They are really woke. The issue, though, is it's still just a politically charged term hanging in the air, and I'm using it mad casual, like I'm talking to my homies, and then they're just like, all right, Rae just said N-word, okay, keep it moving. And it's just like, it's a weird dynamic that I didn't, again, when I didn't work for people I gave a shit about, or when I didn't care what people thought of me, I was saying it. But the thing that was really wild was I accidentally found out that there was a diversity hire, and I accidentally found out just through like an email chain, like somebody didn't delete a subject or something like that.
Yeah, that's Sony leak.
And so it said diversity hire, and I was so hurt. Like my feelings were so hurt, and I was hurt. I came around on it, but this was the process. I was hurt because when I went to my artsy-fartsy private school, I got into Princeton early. I don't know if they still do early decision or early action, but in 2004, Princeton would have an early round of applications they would take. And then those kids either got rejected or waitlisted, and then regular admission, which everybody would apply for. Yeah. And you only were encouraged to apply early if you were guaranteed to get in. That's just how these private school work, right? They have these relationships with the university. St. Anne's was written up in the New York Times about how good they are at getting their kids into Ivy Leagues. And so that was like what I was working with. Yeah. And I'll admit it, I was like kind of a slacker. Always a smart person, but didn't do homework if I didn't have to because we didn't get grades. And I was the kind of person who I would look lazy and like a clown to you, but I'm late on this paper because I spent 3 extra weeks on it because I'm embarrassed to turn in something not perfect. So all of my teachers and stuff understood that. My peers didn't understand that. And I worked for a program called Prep for Prep, which is how I got into the private school. Prep for Prep, what they did and still do is take minority students or students of color in lower income neighborhoods that excel in school and on their citywide exams. They invite them to take an admissions test to the program Prep for Prep. And then if you get in, and after 14 months of extra schooling while you're still in your public school, they place you into one of New York's best independent schools, private schools, for 7th grade, 8th grade.
Is this for the arts or this is kind of just in general? Just
academic. Like you've heard of schools like Collegiate or Brearley. You know the kind of schools that kids on whatever CW nighttime soap opera go to. That's what prep gets children into. And so prep got me into my private school. And I worked from them from 14 on. I was an advisor to students.
Since you were 14 years old?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I was
That's
in
amazing.
the program myself as a student from 10 to 11. I got placed in St. Anne's at 11. And then when I was old enough, prep let me come back to be an advisor and a tutor. And I was doing that outside of school as part of my extracurriculars the whole time. And I didn't talk to my white peers about that, which is just setting the stage for my qualifications. And I shouldn't have to do that. But I just want to put that out there.
How far the extra mile you had to go.
Yes, I was doing a lot. I also traveled an hour to school every day.
Yeah.
On the subway from the worst neighborhood in Brooklyn, you know?
East New York is the
How beautiful is that, though?
No.
I can't wait till you get to put this down, though.
Oh,
That journey is amazing.
It's a
no,
story,
I'm writing a pilot about that sort of stuff right now. But it was just like, so when college applications come around, it's like October 2004.
Yeah.
4 of us apply early. I get into Princeton early on my birthday, y'all.
Ooh,
I see a thick-ass envelope on December 12th. And the way you know is at the time, they weren't doing it online. So you would get a thick envelope if you got in. You would get a small thank you, no thank you letter. Mm-hmm. So Sunday, I open it up.
Was thin.
Well, so Sunday, I open up my letter. My dad calls everybody in Nigeria, Boston, whatever. Nice. They forgot it was my birthday. They were so hyped that I got into school. And I remember I was like, I had to rush to the post office the day it was due to get it stamped because you can mail, if it's stamp dated the day that the deadline is, you can still get it in. Yeah. And I remember being online, submitting my waiting to overnight the envelope, and some man behind me sees that I'm writing to Princeton University and breaks out into applause. This post office in East New York.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So this is how much that meant to me.
It's a big accomplishment that you were able to do.
Thing. So,
and then you went to the bodega that one of his relatives owned
they were like,
to celebrate, to get some credit.
Yeah. So all of this is in my head. I got into college. So the following Monday, everybody's like, who got in? Did you guys hear who got in? And only 2 of the 4 of us got in. Everybody else who applied was white. Mm-hmm. One girl who applied and I thought was my friend was like, well, Annabelle, who was the other girl who got in, has legacy. Legacy meaning your family, a father, a cousin, or something, which is white affirmative action. I can get into that later. But everybody talks about affirmative action like us darkies are overrunning their schools, like there aren't legions of idiots who have the right father that get them into school. Jared Kushner being the best example, where his daddy bought Harvard a $2 million building, and he got to go to Harvard even though he was a very mediocre student at a really good private school in Jersey. Anyway, so my old friend was like, well, so-and-so's got legacy and Rafa's got the this. Mm-hmm. So...
What the fuck?
If you listeners, Rae just did a skin rub, which is when you do that means like, oh, she's got the color.
Yeah.
So
they had literally reduced this accomplishment that meant everything to me to my race, and I'm 17, I'm insecure. All of a sudden, I started to wonder if I didn't deserve what I got. And then I got to Princeton, and the people there are horrendous. Don't ever send your children there. Wow. But it was a really hard time for me because St. Anne's blocked me from that sort of thinking until when my peers didn't get into the schools they needed to lash out at somebody, and I was there for that. Yeah. So I was fortunate to be at an amazing school that gave a shit enough about me that I wasn't aware of what other people might think. Mm-hmm. And then I got to Princeton, and wow, I was invisible. I was poor. I didn't count for shit. And it was just a bunch. I remember being in a politics and discrimination in the law politics class, because at the time I was foolish enough to think I wanted to be a lawyer. And so I'm taking this politics law class, and then we get to affirmative action. And this shit really fucked with me because you have big lecture halls, and the professor who was lecturing was a liberal and pro-affirmative action. And then you would break up into what they call precepts, which is just sections, and Princeton's too fancy to just admit that. Okay. But we had preceptorials, and a preceptor would moderate a smaller scale discussion based on the work from the lecture that week. And I was one of 3 Black girls. First of all, what sucks is in higher education, as diverse as it's getting, there are not Black American people there. Uh-huh. And there's
what would you say, like, percentage-wise?
I would say that if Princeton were 4% Black, 0.5% of them are Black Americans.
But let me ask you this. going through your experience, like anybody who is thinking about going to colleges, like what was the positive outcome of it? Like,
there was no positive outcome.
Nope.
No, not at all.
So you don't think that kind of helped you in a way, like to propel you to be who you are today, as far as like what you know?
No.
Or like the culture that was surrounding you?
Nope. No. And here's why.
So fuck going to college.
No, not fuck going to college. Don't go to a university because everybody on TV says it's the best school.
So yeah, like it's prestigious.
Don't go because Carlton killed himself to get into it.
Gotcha.
And he never even went to Princeton. They stayed at
he
ULA.
transferred at the end.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Princeton doesn't even accept transfers, so they didn't do their research anyway.
But it wasn't like there wasn't any good positive thing you got out of it?
I'm telling you, the only positive things I have are the black women who are still my friends.
There you go.
But it was really wild because it's 3 Nigerian girls. And
Shazam was one of them?
No, I'm older than her.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it's me, this girl Whitney, this girl Temi. We all 3 Nigerian Yoruba girls. And we quiet in this precept while all these white boys in khakis are arguing basically why the 3 of us don't deserve to be there.
Shut the fuck up.
They're sitting here being like, affirmative action is racist, is harmful. Well, if you're going to assist anybody, you should assist poor white people. There are plenty of poor white. We shouldn't make it race-based. We should make it needs-based.
Oh, my God.
Which really fucked me up because I'm watching my peers, maybe indirectly, they think, but directly assaulting my existence in the room.
Yeah.
And that really fucked with me. And then I finally have an emotional outburst, and I'm like, okay, but what about the rich black people, which I wasn't? I'm like, what about the rich black people? You acting like you can't learn anything from them. Mm-hmm. Education isn't about merit in terms of grades. It's about conversations that you have in rooms. Then my preceptor kind of was like, oh, Ralph makes a good point. Whatever. But it was just like...
Were you, I know because I know your confidence on Facebook when it comes to debating.
No, I'm not.
But you were always like that? Like you never had a problem going back and forth? Or did you feel like I had to silence my tongue?
I never had a problem going back and forth, but because of the way we're socialized in this country, if you were a white person with khakis on and glasses, I was very intimidated. And I find residual intimidation
it's still there.
in conversation generally, but I fight for myself now. So after that, I was like, cool. And there were just, I wasn't cool, but I was like, okay, that's what Princeton's here for me. And then there were all these other sort of microaggressions that I would go through every day. And then I got sexually assaulted on the campus and then sexually assaulted again, both by white guys, so I left.
Right.
But the reason I mention all of that about Princeton and getting into school was when I got an email that said that, oh, this is a diversity hire.
Gotcha.
It immediately, I had spent 10 years working on getting over the damage Princeton did to my self-esteem.
Yeah. Right.
And I know that everything I've done in terms of stand-up and writing or whatever, I grinded. Nothing happened to me for me until 8 years in.
Yeah.
And so it was really crazy how the phrase diversity hire crumpled me and made me feel like a 17-year-old girl again.
Yeah.
It felt like Maddie going, this is this.
Right.
And that was embarrassing. I was embarrassed because it sucks to think that none of my coworkers and peers, mind you, this was just how the network phrases these things.
Why do they do that?
They have to.
Corporate
that's
politics.
what they have. They have to explain.
What's the logic behind it?
Behind what?
Saying diversity. Is it because they're like, oh, we're taking care of it?
I think it's genuinely that's the name for it. We have a program in which we invest money in talented people who otherwise don't have opportunity.
But they're trying to change it. Like I'm
a charity or something?
Yeah, I'm real good.
Yeah.
I did stand up for diversity with NBC.
Oh, they changed the name of that?
And they changed the name of it. And it's because it's the great team that's behind it now. They were like, no, it's just
it's a buzzword at this point.
NBC.
But it's still the same thing.
But see, I'm still very grateful for that because there's people of color that fought for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because if you just let it be, it was going to continue just being. But there's people that were like, no, give me a budget for diversity.
Right. Well, see, that's
Money,
kind of what I was...
And then there's people that get like, no, get a Latino writer in there. There's plenty of talented Latino writers. There's plenty of Black Latino writers. There's plenty of talented Asian writers. Get them.
So it's like a union.
But they're not gonna buy with the room. No, get them.
Well, so that was what ended up making me feel great, because while that is the technical term for what I was, my boss saw me do stand-up and wanted that person in the room.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what happened. And because of their processes and how they have to write things down for legal purposes, I felt stamped with a label that I wasn't even going to see if somebody had deleted the email history. So what I wanted to say by that was I felt embarrassed. It hurt my feelings when I saw it. And then I was embarrassed that I was embarrassed, because I was embarrassed that this made me feel like a little girl again, because it was a trigger. And then I was embarrassed that for both me at 30 and me at 17 to be ashamed that a person saw value in what all of me brings to a table, and then be sad about it. Hire the fuck out of Black people. Make it your mission.
And that person, just but dealing
so that
with
means you'll have another one at 43. So just be ready.
Oh yeah,
that's some good math.
I started. I was like, okay, so
and then it's also just like really important to like understand that these people, racists, have turned a good word into a bad word.
Yes.
Because diversity is not a curse.
Yeah.
It's not a slur. No. My room is diverse should never be a bad thing to say. Okay. And this implication that diversity necessarily requires relaxing the standards in a way that isn't good is fucked up. Because what I thought about was, it's kind of like, whenever I see people like Ben Carson or whatever, like, I got here on my own, I didn't need help. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Because when people talk about things like grades or IQs, these are all metrics that are designed to suit the mentality and education of white people. Yes, my IQ is going to be lower because the questions are asked to suit white men. There are studies about how the people who benefit the most from the SAT questioning white women. Then you'll have things like, she scored differently on her SATs than somebody else. I also haven't been tutored since 8th grade for a person that costs $160 an hour. When I took SATs, my mom sent me to Brooklyn College on a $300 course that was 8 weeks, one Sunday a month, Sunday every week.
How'd you guys prep for your SATs?
So I
didn't take my SATs. I never even went to fucking college.
Good.
How about you, Orlando?
Good on you.
I mean, but I still admire. Like I
didn't do SATs. I went to community college.
Yeah, like university. When I hear someone went to university, like I aspire to do that in the future, maybe one time. Because it's like
don't feel bad about that.
No, I don't feel bad, but it's like I feel like it's something I missed out on. And when I hear someone like you and what you're doing with your career and everything and what you got going, it's inspiring. Like
it makes you feel
even
better.
though you said that it didn't work out in prison, which it sucks. Like it's fucked up what happened with you. I still feel like it's having an education to a certain extent is a very admirable thing. You get to learn a lot.
I'm very lucky and grateful. I don't want you to think I'm not.
Yeah.
And every day I still feel guilt because up until recently I couldn't help my mom with shit.
Yeah.
And the way that they hustled to get me to St. Anne's every day when I was in prep, get me all the way to 91st Street on the Upper West Side every Saturday, Wednesday, get me on a bus during the summer. They worked so hard and I was so embarrassed because none of us have degrees in my family. And I was like, how come I'm the one who couldn't finish? Every shorty gets sexually assaulted on a campus. How come I'm the one who it broke? I feel that guilt all the time. Okay. I feel it crazy all the time. Yeah. But pretty recently, I gave my mom a big chunk of money because she wants to pilgrimage to Mecca. She's Muslim. And she had never been able to. And I gave her money to start her on the process. And it was like the happiest I've ever been about my mom. And it was the first time I heard a certain kind of elation, like joy of a certain octave in her voice ever. And it's like, okay, look, I didn't finish. I didn't get a law degree. I'm not working at Skadden Arps, but I got you something with the best that I could do. And I'm happy that you're happy for that, even if I'm doing this sparingly. So I know what you mean in terms of access to education. I'm very lucky and very fortunate. I'm well aware of that. But also, you can make yourself and the people in your life happy in another way. You can do it this way. This podcast, comedy, everything, you can do it. And I don't mean to sound like some motivational speaker, buff dude yelling on Instagram.
But you don't need to.
Yeah.
But that is in a way, that it could be your next duty. That's what you're called to do. Because you could intervene with that young black girl going to Princeton, and it's like, pause before you go in here. Here's what you need to look out for.
You were talking about, what you were talking about before, I'm sorry I'm sucking all the oxygen out of the room, but what you was talking about before really resonated with me when you said something about putting that person in the room and other people say they don't vibe there though. There's two angles to that, and you're right on both of them. One, a lot of times people don't want to diversify their room because they know that the person coming in brings a different energy. That's basically what happened with the debacle with The Simpsons this week, where they
with a Pooh's character.
Yeah, because it's like it's like a writer's room full of like 20 white guys who are liberal when they started 30 years ago. But they not liberal and progressive no more.
They've been in the bubble of financial bracket.
They're still hiring Harvard people who are rich and don't talk to normals. So nobody hit them with this is why that might not jive. And they don't want that person to be able to come in there and do that. They like their word comfortable, and they like feeling like they don't need correction because they was already ahead of the curve before. And so time passes them by, but they're insulated by money and their friends who are all educated
and
the same
network
way.
renewals.
And so the vibe thing is totally like 100% true. And it was also very true at Princeton, because my year, 2005, I would have been class of 09.
Oh, me too. Well, high school.
I would have graduated.
No, my high school grad.
Why are you trying to make me feel old? You know how many serums I use on my face every day? You out here telling me I would have graduated 4 years after you. But part of the problem with Princeton, what they did was Princeton, first of all, was the last to integrate and the last to accept women. It's the most conservative Ivy. They don't accept transfer, for God's sake. They think they're all classy and whatever. What Princeton did was take the largest group of black students they ever had up until that point. So my class was something like 8% black, 9%, something like that. They dumped us into the school and then didn't take the necessary steps to integrate us into the actual school. So everybody says stuff like an institution, people self-segregate. The Latinos only talk to the Latinos. The blacks only talk to the blacks. No, that's not what happens. What happens is you have a larger society, a mainstream culture at a school that is necessarily white and wealthy. And the school doesn't do its job to make sure that it's a place that's welcoming for its brown students that they finally let in. So when you have eating clubs that cost $10,000 a month, yes, they're basically like
what kind of food they got though?
Pretty solid food.
She got a sample.
But it's as simple, like that's the best example I can think of. You have a school that by tradition only feeds freshmen and sophomores and gives them a dorm with a dining hall freshman and sophomore year. And then during your sophomore spring, you have to decide to either bicker an eating club so you can take your meals at a social club or go independent.
Damn.
All the minorities go independent because who has 10 grand a semester for food?
10
grand.
Yeah.
So now what Princeton has tried to do in the time since I was there, they have 4-year colleges, but you have wealthy old white alumni who hate the loss of tradition. So they're fighting against the 4-year colleges and fighting for eating clubs, even though the school is trying to discuss
because that $10,000 a month was just the mask that they would put on the social club.
So even if you were of color, you had to have been of wealth to get into it.
Because that's where the real discussion
is another
that's
small
where
number.
the real discussion of the school is taking place.
And then on top of, so then Princeton started trying to do things like, oh, we'll give you a $5,000 grant if you join an eating club to help toward your eating club submission, dues. And that sucks. It's like, okay, I got to get charity from the school so that I can try to fit in with these people who know I'm not paying the whole fee anyway.
Right.
Well, fuck that.
Yeah.
There's no way. So it all that's to say, I've been very fortunate enough to be in two writers' rooms where once I was in there, they made a point of making sure I knew I belonged there. And I don't know if that's the case in other people's writing jobs, but I know that that's the case at mine. And I know that if we are to change the landscape of television, that's what they have to do. You can't just bring some brown shorty in there, let her do her own thing in a corner while you guys have the real discussion. She has to be part of everything.
And that's what you're doing. Have you had that moment yet? Have you had the moment?
Oh yeah, I fought for so many things.
No, I'm just talking about like in The Good Place. I know you guys are writing and whatnot, but have you had that moment where that script has been approved and it has your name on it at the top?
Well, so I haven't written an episode yet. We all break story together.
How about in the President show?
Oh, in the President show, a lot of my jokes got in. Yeah. But also we were rewriting scripts and there's language and terms and beats that I know I contributed. Yeah. As long as I can see stuff like that up until we get to my episode.
You watch the show?
I love the show. Yeah. It's like really funny. So back in the day, I'll admit this. Back in the day, I was hooking up with a DJ when I was like young and hot.
Is it a famous DJ?
Yeah. And
okay, before we get into this, guys, I hate to be that guy, but I gotta go.
Okay, I wanted to ask you this right before you go, Orlando. I want to ask you. So you did you breaking ground on your own with HBO, the Latino special.
Yeah.
So how did that feel? Because I think when you ask the casual person of Latin community, they'll say George Lopez, Mencia, whatever. But this platform allows new Latin comedians or comedians of Latin descent to break through.
Those guys set the pace.
Right.
It says HBO Latino, so there's certain Latin comics that have Latin backgrounds that won't even do the show because it's Latino, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel that way about certain shows myself because I'm not gonna dress up like a clown or hit someone with a giant remote over the head or with a hammer. I'm not built like that.
Right.
And I don't even talk Spanish during my set.
Okay.
So when they approached me, they were so wonderful. They were like, no, because they saw me at the West Side Theater, and they were like, no, we want you to be you. And then Ida Rodriguez, which you know her and whatnot.
Yeah.
Antonio's in it too, right? Antonio?
Yeah, he did his thing. He was hosting. She co-signed for me. She was like, no, you guys are dumb if you guys don't bring Orlando on. Because I travel, we already had this discussion where I travel to my own beat. I don't ask anybody for nothing. I go where I'm wanted.
You stay to the course.
You know what I'm saying? I go where I want it. But if I get a diversity shot, it's like, okay, I got that diversity shot because there is a certain talent I'm bringing to the table, and I'm going to take full advantage of it. Yeah. And I'm going to make sure that I do such a above and beyond job that when the next person comes behind me, there's not even a question.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I respect that. I know you got to leave, so I'm going to let you bounce. Thank you so much
Thank you, Nick,
for joining us, man. We really appreciate the talk.
I'm so
tell the people where you're going to be at next week.
This comes out Thursday, so wherever you got after Thursday, you can plug.
Oh, I don't know. I'm doing like this cancer thing for people with cancer down at the...
Where can they follow you then? Where can they follow you?
At Hey Lando, man, and stuff like that.
Super
Love
easy.
each other, take care of each other, and don't want for anything. Just live your life. You know what I mean? Love everybody. Take care. At Hey Lando, there's a wonderful podcast. What's the name of the podcast?
For the culture, my brother.
Culture.
For the culture. For the culture.
All right, y'all.
Love each other. Be good, brother.
Bye.
Peace. Take care. So I was smashing a DJ.
I'm gonna guess it. I take 3. All right, I'll take 5 guesses, and then you could just pat my knee if I got the right one.
Okay.
So it's a New York DJ?
No.
Where is he based in?
I think LA. Started
DJ.
in Philly, yeah.
Started in Philly. Damn, I only know Big Boy. So.
Okay. He's a white guy though.
All right, so then I won't know.
So
tell this story and then we'll wrap up. Yeah.
It's not that big a story. Basically, like we was talking, and it was never going to be anything serious. I was like his third favorite New York hoe or whatever. And this was like when I was 21.
Okay.
But it would be really crazy because he's a culture vulture, and it would be wild. Like, I would have just sent him a text.
Vlad TV?
No.
Oh, okay, all right.
I would have just sent him a text, and then that nigga would go on Twitter and use my exact phrasing. It was wild. It would be like
straight thieving.
Like on some like, oh, this Brooklyn shorty just said this Brooklyn slang. It's the first time I've heard it. I'm gonna use it on the internet to be dope. And it's not culture vulturing at work because I'm there to contribute.
Right.
But the way I was seeing old boy's tweets, my phrasing, my language, that's what I see in the mouth of some of the characters on the scripts that we've worked with.
Oh, okay.
And if I'm not, if it's, that's what I'm there for. They want me to pitch on jokes. They want me to work on phrasing when we do rewrites until we get to my episode. And so as long as I can see that,
of course.
As long as some old white man says something like smash on TV, I'm good to go.
Okay. That's awesome. And that's dope. We are extremely happy for you. I know you're gonna keep doing your thing in the writing room,
Thank you for
as well
having
as on
us.
Stage. You know, I'm always a big fan of you. I want to see more thought posts as well as NBA playoff posts as we get into the postseason. So we're gonna link up and watch some games, you know, and hang out and catch up. So you know, try to help you. And that's why when I saw you move, I wanted to hit you out like, hey, you know, how's it going?
I've been so depressed being here that I haven't hung out with anybody.
I try to encourage
that's how it
you.
is.
Here.
That's how it is for a little bit.
Try to make sure, you know, come
and
out.
then you start like getting cool with people, get acclimated, and then you start getting into
very isolated.
A lot of us, we got a nice stable of New York guys out here, so it's it won't be too bad.
That's good to know.
Ray, where can the people follow you? Do you have any shows after Thursday that you want to promote, or
I don't remember.
Okay.
I'm very bad at that. But find me on Twitter at Rae Sunni, RaeSanni, Rafizzle87 on Instagram, Rae Sunni on Facebook. And I'm going to be taping a half hour soon. I just have to finalize some stuff, but it'll be before the end of the month. And I would love if you guys came out to check it out.
Cool. So keep up with Rae so that y'all can see about all the things that she's got coming on, man. I'm your host, Nick Alexander. This is my co-host, Amarie Lee.
Yes, sir.
We do this for the culture.
For the culture.
Always. Peace.
Peace.